Today we are going to listen to Gregory about the secrets and the fantastic things we can do with creative writing. Could you please, Gregory, introduce yourself and what do you do for your business?
My name is Gregory Allen Burhoe. I am an author, a self-published author of 7 books. My most recent book is called Vendetta Ride by Wyatt Earp. It is a historical novel. And so, yeah, I mean, that's basically it in terms of my books. I'm also a visual artist. I've got a comic book project underway, Hybrid Nights. It's going to be probably a few months before I finish that. So I'm an illustrator and a writer.
How do you feel being a writer? What does it make you feel like?
I love it because I have complete creative control. No one can tell me what I can or can't do. So I have complete control with that. So if, for example, you were going to make a movie or put on a play production, I've been involved with play productions in the past, and that it's a collaborative project. So even if you're the director, producer, I mean, you're going to be working with all these other people, right? And that's fine. But the great thing about being a novelist is that you have complete control over everything. So it's pretty cool. If you know there's a story you want to tell, you can tell exactly the way that you want to tell it.
But let me ask you this, like, don't you think that with this great control and the great freedom, you shoulder a great responsibility to be up to the standards?
Yeah.
And how do you achieve that balance between full freedom and quality?
Well, that's a good question. The thing is, it's like for me, it's a tremendous amount of work doing a book. It's a lot of work. It's a big undertaking, and there's so many different aspects to it because you've got characters. You've got to stay true to the characters that you've created. You know, you can't have your characters acting just different, like out of character for no reason. If a character changes, you've got to show how that character changed. And so you've got to stay true to that world that you've just created. Like even if it's set in the real world, it's always going to be basically your world. It's going to be your story. And if you start off with a dark atmosphere, you can't then have everything change around into something light, you know, a lighter tone for no reason. You've got to stay true to what you started with on so many different levels and develop your characters in a way that makes sense and so on. So, I mean, it's a huge undertaking and there's a lot of responsibility with writing a book. Yeah, that's quite a conversation by itself, really. But for me, it's like I have like maybe an obsessive compulsive kind of personality. Like when I get working on a book, I don't even want to sleep at night, you know, I want to keep working away on it. So you kind of have to have that, or you just have to have a good work ethic or, you know, a lot of self-discipline, because there is a lot of responsibility in writing a book.
So my question is like, from the start to where you are now, how much effort have you put through the journey?
Oh, a lot. If I was married with kids, I probably wouldn't be able to have done what I've been doing. You know, it's really, really hard because I've been working full time, and so sometimes like for weeks at a time or months at a time, like all I pretty much do other than sleeping and working is working on my work, you know. That's where it helps to kind of have a bit of an obsessive quality where you don't want to stop, you just want to keep going at it because you either need that or you need a strong discipline because it is a lot of work. So yeah, it's a lot of sacrifice. And if you really get into writing a book, especially if you've got a job or something that you're doing besides, you're going to find that you're going to be canceling a lot of, you know, dates and you know, appointments and events with your friends and stuff. You're just going to be becoming more reclusive because you need a tremendous amount of time to work on it.
Compared to other professions, for example, let's say motivational speakers, let's say managers, and whatever the other job is, do you think you are giving or exerting similar amounts of effort or more or less than the others?
I would say so. I would say it's a huge undertaking. So yeah, it's quite, it's, yeah, definitely.
so, so let me ask you this, like, is writing that difficult?
It can be, because I mean, it can be like when I was younger, I was so good at just, I'd sit down, I'd just start writing. It would just come to me intuitively, and I couldn't even, my writing it down, you know, my hand just couldn't keep up with the words. They just keep going through my head. I could write incredibly fast, and it would be incredibly easy. Sometimes writing, it's like one of my favorite authors, Charles Dickens, and he wrote A Christmas Carol. He wrote that so fast, it just came out of him. Like it was like intuition, you know, like it was the easiest book he said he ever wrote. It just flew through him. And sometimes that happens, and it's very easy to write a book, especially with fiction, of course. But certainly sometimes it's a hugely difficult undertaking. And sometimes it takes you a while just to write one chapter. And so, yeah, you know, it really all depends on the kind of story you're writing, and it depends on how easily it comes to you. And sometimes, of course, writing more quickly, it can be awful, whereas taking your time and you know, putting more time and effort into it could result in a better book. So I mean, it all kind of depends.
If we can call you a professional writer now, how do you compare yourself to being a novice writer?
Well, to me, a novice is someone that's most likely read a lot of stuff, but they don't necessarily know what they want to say or how to say it. So, I mean, anyone who can read and write could just sit down and write a novel. But a professional or someone who's really had experience at it, they have something that they want to say, and they know how to convey it. So it's like The Lord of the Rings, right? That's a book most people have probably either read or are familiar with. The One Ring, and that's a MacGuffin. You know, it's an item that's used to get characters from point A to point B, but that's not how it's used, of course. The Lord of the Rings is about the weakness of human nature and how anyone can be corrupted by power and a desire for power. So, but an amateur would just use that MacGuffin, you know, to get characters from point A to point B. That's dull. It's surface. It's not very deep or interesting. But that's what an amateur does versus someone who really is experienced and kind of knows what they're doing and knows the importance of good writing.
So let's pick on your words. You say you know what you want to say. What does this mean?
Well, I mean, more or less. And that's kind of something you sometimes figure out as well. Sometimes, like, you start off with something that you want to convey, an insight into something. It could be something really simple to, like how life struggles can be really rough, and yet sometimes something small and something simple can help give you the strength to get through things. And something as simple as that could start you on thinking about, like, well, maybe I could write a book about like a horror novel, and there's some kind of demonic creature that's out to get the main protagonist, but they end up finding like a friendship or a love or something simple and beautiful that gives them that strength that they need to, you know, basically overcome the challenges. So, you know, that's kind of like what it is. Sometimes, though, you have an idea for a story and you don't really know what the heart of it is. You don't really know what it's conveying. You kind of figure that out as you go. So, but yeah, there should be something more behind it than just a simple story, you know.
Let's come to the next question. You said they know how to convey it. What do you mean by how?
Sorry?
Yeah, you said that they know how to convey these ideas.
Yeah.
What is this how?
For how to convey?
Yeah.
I guess that's just simply through experience. That you just learn how to use the words, you know how to convey. Because I mean, again, like anyone can write a sentence. Well, if you can read and write, then you could write some fiction. But with time, you kind of realize, you know, what you're saying is different than what you're simply just saying. So I mean, if you're writing like a horror story, for example, and you have all the characters killed at the end of the story, well, that might be kind of neat. But then what is that conveying? You know, you're conveying that evil wins over good, you know? it's like you have to think about what you're saying basically to the world, right? Through your book. It's not just a story with characters that are discardable and nothing really matters, that there's actually something deeper than that happening. So you learn to really kind of convey your thoughts and your ideas through your writing, and to be aware of what you're conveying, to the world through your writing.
But this depends on experience.
The what?
Yeah, I mean, like being able to choose your language very carefully, being aware of
Mm,
what your language conveys. This comes from
mm.
experience with writing.
Yeah, yeah.
So, like you are suggesting that novice writers may write something, and it conveys something they don't want to.
Yeah, it can happen. Yeah.
Okay. So, what are the characteristics of creative writing? What is creative writing?
Creative writing is basically just using your imagination. It's writing from imagination rather than writing from uh, a car manual or something. Like if you're going to write a poem or a story just from your imagination, basically that's what it is. Creative writing.
If we compare creative writing to, for example, academic writing, do you see differences between both types?
Uh, well, for sure. Um, yeah, I mean, there's a huge difference between, like I say, writing a car manual or writing a nonfiction book, like on the art of writing or something. I mean, there's similarities, but there's also differences for sure. And
Okay,
I mean,
yeah, go ahead, Gregory.
it's just that, yeah, I mean, there's a whole different mindset between, like, in a scholarly perspective. Um, when you're doing something from your own heart and imagination, that's more intuitive, and it's bound to be more original. Like, of course, if you're going to do something more like a scholarly writing that you want people to take seriously, well, that's altogether different. I mean, that's an interesting discussion right there. But there's a whole different, perspective, a whole different mindset.
Yeah. So let's go to more into creative writing. What are the challenges regarding creative writing?
Well, you need a lot of time, and you need concentration. So, I mean, you want to be in an environment that isn't too distracting, and you need a lot of patience, because it takes a lot of time and a lot of hard work, and there's no guarantee that it'll ever really pay off, right? So you've got to be very persistent, and basically you're doing it because you love doing it, and but it does require a lot of time and effort.
How does it pay off?
Well, I think the best thing really is when you get positive feedback from someone, like that say that they loved your book, they were inspired by it. I mean, that's like the greatest payoff. But obviously, you're also hoping, I mean, I'd love to be able to make a living just doing my writing. That's kind of my dream. So that would be a big payoff, to be able to, quit my day job and
Yeah.
do what I love.
What is the best, let's say, the best moment with feedback that you have received so far?
Um, so far, yeah, I would say that just simply I got feedback one time by this woman that was saying that she loved it, and it was exactly the kind of writing that she likes that she's always looking for, and that's great. I mean, it's just a simple just hearing from someone like who's genuinely telling you that they love what you do. I mean, that's a great feeling. Someday I'd love to get feedback by someone telling me that I've really affected them in a profound way or something. I don't know. Someday maybe I could write something that could affect people, like on the deepest level possible. I just love to inspire people. I love to try to inspire people the way that stories have inspired me, so.
Well, what was the name of the book that the lady spoke about?
Good question. I have 7 published books, so I don't know if I can remember.
Okay, we can come to this question later, but think about it. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So you decided to self-publish. Why?
Why? Well, I spent years trying to get an agent. See, there's two, it's a catch-22 with traditional publishing, because it's hard to approach a publishing house without an agent. And it's hard to get an agent without being published. So what do? And what I should have done, and this is what I knew I should have done, was to concentrate on short stories. And that's a great way to make a name for yourself. And then you can approach either a publishing company or an agent, or eventually they may approach you after you've made a name for yourself. But I was too impatient. I wanted to get a book published, and even then it might take a year or two for your book to actually get on the shelf. So I mean, it's going to require patience no matter what. And I should have gone the route of writing short stories, and that's what I'd recommend to people today. If you want to get published a traditional way, is to go through short stories, because I really don't think it's that hard to get short stories published. Because only one time I sent several short stories off to different magazines. This was without knowing that they would necessarily be the right fit for those magazines. So I wasn't really expecting to hear back from any of them. And I actually did hear back from a few of them. And one was a comedic story, and they said how they were all reading it and they're all laughing. So that was great. I mean, they said it wasn't the right fit for their magazine, but it made them all laugh. So that made me feel good. And then one was a science fiction short story that they said that the science in it didn't quite make sense. And so they wanted me to either fix the science or to send them a new story. And I should have done that. But I just thought at the time, I don't know if I even want to write science fiction necessarily. And I don't know if short stories are really my thing, but I should have done that. So that's kind of a little regret on my part. I should have really pursued that, but I didn't. So with getting published the traditional way, I mean, if you don't go the route of short stories, and it can be very hard. Some people, of course, are really charismatic and they're really good at selling themselves. And sometimes it's just a simple thing. I've heard stories of someone would just walk down the road and oh, well, there's an agent that lives over there. Maybe I'll go and see if she's home, and they get talking with her, and then they get a book deal going. It can be really easy, or you could spend decades never getting anywhere, So after I spent several years trying to get an agent, because that was one of 2 ways I could have gone about it, I just gave up. For a while, I liked the idea of someone who could hopefully recognize, that I had talent, that it was worth getting published. Because I mean, I knew it's not just arrogance. I've known different writers and people that should know, that have told me that my writing was really good. So I kind of figured that I might be able to find an agent that would see that talent and would believe in me and represent me, but that just didn't happen. So after years of trying that, I gave up and decided, I'm just going to self-publish, because it was too hard. I spent years and years working on my writing and never really getting it published, shown to the public, So I decided I'm going to self-publish. And that was one of my early books that I self-published, Sick Nick, the Underdwellers book. That was the one I think where I believed it was worthy of being published, and I couldn't get any real good feedback from that. That's where I decided, okay, you know what? I'm going to self-publish. So actually, I wrote Sector Storm and then published that one first, and then I published Sick Nick, my second book. So I've been on that path now of doing it that way. And I like it, because that way I can put my work out there. I get feedback of some kind, and, rather than spending years never knowing if you're going to actually get a book published. And, but to go the traditional route, I would definitely recommend short stories.
Is your book around?
Yeah, it's still on Amazon.
No. Is it here? Is it next to you somewhere now?
Oh, no, I don't think so. No.
Okay, could you tell us a short idea of what the book is about?
A Sick Nick book?
Yeah.
Oh, it's kind of a Stephen King type of novel, and it's about four friends that knew each other when they were young children, and they had strange experiences involving this sort of underground world where there was this strange cat creature that would take on the form of, well, it was a kind of man that would take on the form of a cat creature, and it was like a nightmare, and they just thought that must have been like a dream that couldn't have been real, and they go out in the adult world and they kind of forget about all that. But then this man in man form starts coming to them, and there's something that they have that he wants, and they don't know what it is. They can't believe that this is real, and they reconnect and they try to remember what happened. And so it's kind of it's a supernatural thriller, and I was pretty pleased with it. I thought it turned out pretty well. But the problem with that genre, though, supernatural thrillers don't sell very well. It's a very small market. So if you've got quite a name for yourself, like if you're like, Neil Gaiman, then you could do that. But if you don't have a real good name for yourself, it is a very difficult subgenre.
Why do you think this is, let's say, masterpiece?
I don't know if it's a masterpiece, but I'm happy with it because I don't know. I mean, I love the characters. I love the story, and I don't know. It touches something in my heart where it's something that I'll always really, even if no one else really took to it, it's something that I'd always like on a personal level, I guess.
Let's say this. Let's imagine this. The book is not yours. I gave you the book and I said, write a review of 50 words. What would you say about the book?
Oh, I don't know.
The review is going to a very famous newspaper. Go ahead.
I don't know. I'd say it was a dark and mysterious and interesting book that was very intriguing and well, dark and disturbing, but exhilarating, hopefully. Yeah, and I think the main draw to that story to me is the characters themselves. To me, that's what's the most interesting thing about it, and so yeah.
What age should be more attracted to the book?
Probably writers in their 30s and older, probably.
Why that?
Well, that's the age of the characters, I believe. They were in their mid-30s, if I'm remembering correctly. And it was written for more mature readers. It's not, I don't know how to put it. It's not like a simple little story. It was written, it's not like a book that's at all right, talking down to the reader. It's kind of expecting you to have some intelligence to be able to think about these things. So, it's definitely for more thoughtful readers, I would say.
Let's uncover the secrets of the book. What secrets have you hidden inside the lines? Or have you discovered now as a reviewer? So,
what, secrets in the lines?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
You say that the book is for the people the writer who are searchers and the people who need deep thinking.
I don't know if there's like secrets exactly. It's just written with a sense of mystery to it, where by the end you don't necessarily understand everything 100%. It's meant to really kind of make you think and to open your mind to the possibilities, I suppose. So yeah, it's not that everything doesn't make sense by the end, but I mean, it just sort of leaves the door open to the possibilities, I guess. I didn't want to explain everything, I wanted to keep some of it a mystery, and partly it does involve adult characters dealing with their adult lives, and adult issues. So it's not necessarily a book that would be perhaps accessible to young readers.
If you go to the bookshop and you see the book on the shelves, would you pay $20 to get the book?
Well, I would, because it's my cup of tea, like I write the books that I want to read. So yeah, I mean, that's exactly how I write, is I write what specifically I would love to read. So of course I would.
Would you choose the book because of the title or because of the writer?
Well, if I started reading it, I'd love the writing. I don't know about the title. I've never been quite sure if the title was right. But originally, I think I called it The Underdwellers, and then I changed it. When I self-published it, I changed it to Sick Nick. So I thought that was punchier, but I'm not sure.
So like if you are asking me to go to to go to buy the book from the book shop, you are asking me first to open the book and read some pages and then decide. Not
No.
by the book's name, not by the writer's name.
Well, I'm not that recognizable. My name isn't a household word. Most people would never, I mean, hardly anyone would have heard of me. So wouldn't work so well by my name. It would have to be hopefully by the cover, and the title hopefully would have you interested enough to read the blurb on the back. So hopefully that would entice you.
Yeah, amazing. So let's get back to self-publishing and technology. How does technology help?
Technology is huge, because there was a time when it was very hard to get recognized as a writer or any kind of artist. It's like my favorite visual artist of all time is Vincent van Gogh. And in his lifetime, he was only able to sell one painting. And that was his brother that actually bought it. So that's how hard it is, when you're unknown. It doesn't matter how good you are. You could be one of the greatest visual artists who ever lived. And still, today, because of social media, I believe that if Vincent van Gogh were alive today doing his work, I think he could put it on. People would start following him, even if he wasn't that good at it, just simply by putting it on. People would start to find him, and I think that he would develop a following. But back in his day, just putting his work up in a couple art galleries, all those people would just go by it, go past it, and they would buy artwork that was trendier, right? And it's hard to imagine people actually walking by Vincent van Gogh's work to buy something trendier, but that's the way most people are, right? With artwork or with books. It's people buy these things for different reasons. Some have a legitimate love for artistry. Some have specific interests, so whatever it is you're selling, it doesn't have to just be good. It has to fit. If it doesn't fit their specific interest, then they're not interested. So there's nothing you can do about that, but it's hard to find your market, and that's the thing, is that it's a matter of finding your market. And now today, because of social media, anyone, I believe, could find their market. It's the phenomenal time to be any kind of indie artist or indie author for getting discovered. There's never been a time like this.
Have you tried to exist on social media like Instagram, Facebook, Twitter?
I'm doing quite well on LinkedIn. That's my favorite one. And I'm on Twitter as well, and a few other ones. But LinkedIn is the one that I've received the most positive feedback from.
I am not speaking about establishing a professional character or a professional profile. I'm speaking about reaching out to the audience or to the people who you want to read the books.
Yeah,
yeah.
Advertising my books and showing the covers and the blurb and sharing, a sample chapter from my book and stuff. And yeah, I've been doing that. And that helps, of course.
Let me ask you this question. Have you ever recorded a video on Instagram explaining a story, advertising a story, narrating one of your stories?
No, that's something that actually I should do that. That's a good idea. No, I haven't done that yet. I have done some YouTube videos, and I read a sample chapter from one of my books, and I was going to keep doing that, but my time is always so I always have to pick and choose between what I'm going to do and what I'm not.
But it's like very short. It's my idea.
Yeah, I should find the time to do that. Yes.
Like a video about 5 minutes, 10 minutes. You get my point? It is now 1 hour video, 2 hours video.
Oh.
You get my point? Like 5 minutes every day or 5 minutes every Sunday. And then the story continues. Maybe it can help build an audience.
Right. Yeah, I should do that. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Fine. Yeah, I'm helping. Okay.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. What is historical fiction?
Historical fiction is anything that's set in the past, basically. However, if you're going to write historical fiction, you're going to have a lot of history buffs looking at your work. And if your work is not historically accurate, then they're not going to be happy with it. So word of mouth is not going to spread. Like for my most recent book, Vendetta Ride, the true story of Wyatt Earp, I did a tremendous amount of research to get all the facts right on that. And I'm doing that again with my current project on Sam Steele. That also is I have quite a few books that I've been going through for that. So you have to really put a lot of research into it, try to get all the facts right. Otherwise, like I say, you won't please the history buffs.
Okay. How much do you read?
I read every day. When I'm researching, I read excessively. But yeah, I read quite a bit. I'd say hours every day. I'm reading something, books, articles. When I'm not writing, I'm often reading.
Yeah, don't you think you are putting most of your effort in one side? Like you need to balance your effort between reading, writing, advertising, connecting,
Oh
networking.
yeah, balancing, absolutely. Yeah, it's an important, very important point. And yeah, you have to find a balance because you can't do everything. You have to pick and choose, but then there are things that you need to do and you can't concentrate all your time into one aspect. So yeah, there's a balancing act you have to do for sure.
Let me ask you another difficult question, Gregory. Like always, you choose, let me rephrase the question. You choose the genres or the types that fit your style, or you try to fit your style to the types that may get a wider market. Does my question make sense?
Yeah. I don't do that though, really. I just, see, I've written different books for different reasons, but generally speaking, like I just have a story that I feel like telling, and so I just write it. And then I don't necessarily worry about how it fits into a certain genre. And again, that was a mistake, perhaps, from a business perspective with my Sick Nick book, where that particular subgenre isn't very popular. I mean, my Wyatt Earp book is technically a Western as well, and Westerns don't sell very well these days. So, you know, it would be wise to write something, of course, in a more popular subgenre. And I don't know, maybe I'm too stubborn to write to sell. I don't know. I tend to go where my heart takes me, you know. And no, my Wyatt Earp book has been doing quite well though. So I mean, a lot of it is finding that crowd though, right? And I think I've been doing well with that on LinkedIn, where there's a lot of people there who are interested in history and seem to have an interest in my historical novels. So, but yeah, no, I don't tend to think much about the genre I'll be writing in. I tend to think more about the story and the characters, and then I figure out, you know, how to label it genre-wise later on.
My other question is more difficult. Do you think you have been working inside your comfort zone? And if yes, when would you push yourself outside your comfort zone?
Ooh. Yeah, I mean, I went outside my comfort zone with my Wyatt Earp book because I'd never written historical fiction before. And that was intimidating because I was no expert on, I mean, I'm Canadian, so I'm no expert on American history. So, I mean, that was a huge undertaking where I just felt like I had to tell this story. And so I had to do a tremendous amount of research, and it was kind of overwhelming, but eventually I just got a grasp on it. And so yeah, that was really quite different because I didn't really know much about Wyatt Earp from the beginning. It was just something I felt instinctually that I wanted to do, but that was definitely outside of my comfort zone. And now I'm doing Sam Steele, which is kind of a less violent and action-packed story. So that requires me, that's the one thing with the Wyatt Earp book, is that there is very action-adventure, basically. There is a lot of violence in it, whereas this story is a little different. So it's, you know, it challenges me in a different way to write differently. And so, you know, I definitely love challenging myself. I think part of the reason why I don't write a whole lot of fantasy is I've always loved fantasy, but it's like too easy for me. You know, like I know it too well. I do like challenging myself and doing something different. And I think that's important. However, of course, if you do something that's too much outside your comfort zone, you might find that you're writing something that you really aren't suited to write at that particular point in time anyway. So you don't want to push it too far.
Let's push it too far from the other end. If you give your book to a publisher and then the publisher asks you to change 50% of the book, 40% of the book, would you agree?
No, I wouldn't.
When would you agree and why would you not agree?
Because I mean, you have to be reasonable, of course. You can't just be like just a hard case. You've got to agree to certain things, and so of course, if there's a professional editor that's saying, well, I want to cut all this stuff out, and as long as it's not anything super essential, I would probably just go along with it, even if it annoyed me. I'd probably just think, well, if you want to be successful, this is what you got to do. But there is a line that I won't accept. And if someone wanted to cut out a whole bunch of stuff that I thought was really important, then I don't think I'd go along with it. I don't think so.
Do you think these books express your identity?
Yeah, there was a saying that real art expresses. I forget exactly how that goes, but
Just say it.
Paraphrasing, the saying is, yeah, well,
Do you want to say, for example, like a book reflects your personality, something like that?
Yeah. See, art really does bring out a lot of stuff from inside you. If you're expressing from yourself, of course, you actually find out a lot of things about yourself while you're writing, and it's very interesting. The more you let go of your inhibitions, basically, and allow yourself just to write whatever feels right for that particular book, and you'll I don't know, it's really interesting like that. And I think it does reveal a lot of things, different aspects about you, and you do learn a lot more about yourself in your writing. And your perceptions, of course, of the world come out in different ways, and you're writing with different characters that each have their own perceptions. And so I don't know, I guess it ends up revealing a lot about how you perceive the world, because I mean, the narrower your perceptions, well, that'll come out more in your book. Your book will end up being less interesting, I suppose. And if you have a certain view of the world, like a narrow view, then I suppose your books would reflect that, right? So, but yeah, no, I think that any art that you do really brings out a lot of yourself. But that can be misunderstood, because of course, if I write a book that's violent, it doesn't mean I'm violent. It doesn't mean that I like violence exactly, but so, you could obviously misjudge someone also by what they write, but I think it does reveal a lot of insights from people.
Let's look at the topic or the idea from another perspective, like letting out your personality come into your book. Is this something empowering, or is this something limiting to your writing?
Sorry, can you say that again?
Yeah, like reflecting your personality or putting your personality and perspective in your writing. Is this something that empowers and let's say raises the quality, increases the quality of your writing, or does it limit the quality of your writing?
I don't know. See, that's something I don't even think about. I just sort of, because I mean, you have to have what's called your voice, you've got to express from your own view, kind of from your own, because you kind of have to, because otherwise you're writing a car manual, it has to be reflective. You have to really show the world from your perspective, because otherwise it would just be kind of dull, right? So I'd say it's all important when you're writing a book to really bring your view or views on different things, out.
Let's get a little more technical in your writing. How do you select your vocabulary? Gregory, can you hear me? Yeah, Gregory, I was asking, how do you select your vocabulary?
Oh, well, I try to keep it pretty simple. because not everyone that would read your books, of course, necessarily have a large vocabulary. And it's not like I have a huge vocabulary myself. So I try to keep it fairly kind of simple. You don't want to come across as, well, some authors love to express a very large vocabulary because it makes them look intelligent, you know, but when you do that, you're going to confuse a lot of people who aren't going to be able to follow along very easily. So I believe in really just trying to use like everyday words, and sometimes you have to use more unusual words for descriptive reasons, but by and large, I believe in really sticking with, you know, just normal everyday words that most people could easily follow.
Have you ever attended training sessions?
Not for writing, no.
Why not?
Well, that was something that to me is always so individualistic. Like I never had any inclination, I never had any interest in learning how to write because it was something that I just developed on my own. So maybe it's independent stubbornness.
Like maybe others would, I don't know, like raise unusual ideas or like raise your awareness to unusual things. You may
Yeah.
notice new ideas, new styles or something.
Oh yeah. I mean, I have been involved with forum sites. Like years ago, I used to be involved with different writers' forum sites where we'd share our work and we'd talk about different things and share our different perspectives. And yeah, that was really interesting. So I have done that kind of thing. I just haven't taken like, you know, like a course or a writing course or anything.
Well, let's say, how big is the role of the audience or the fans in your books? Like, how much do you think about the readers when you write your books?
Not a whole lot, because I think is I'm not psychic, so even if I were to talk to them more and get to know them better, I'm not going to really know for sure. I mean, when you try to please everyone, you won't please anyone, right? So the only way I really know how to write is to write for myself, is to write a book that I know I'll love, and if I'll love it, then theoretically other people should too. And that's my approach. Is I don't know. I think if you try to write to please other people, you're more likely to turn them off, I think. So I think you should, I believe in always writing for yourself. Always write the book that you really want to read.
Have you done research or like read the book, the market statistics, or let's say the publishers and sites and the scientific research about how this works, or how the I don't know how to say it, how the reader's minds work, how do the reader's mind, do you understand what I mean?
Yeah. I've read lots of stuff like that in the past. That was like years ago. I haven't lately, but there was a time when I used to be into all that stuff. I mean, you name it, if it has to do with writing, you know, I probably read it at one time or another. I mean, you know, every subject, right? From writing a book to how to write a professional cover letter, you know, and how to write the synopsis. You know, I've read tons of stuff on every aspect of writing at one point or another, but not in recent years. Eventually it's like, you know, I get tired of all that stuff. So it's like, yeah, I'm just going to write what I enjoy writing.
What else would you like to say?
Um, not a whole lot, I guess. I think I've said a lot about my work here, and um, I would say that I don't know. I mean, for advice for struggling authors, I guess I would just say that you might want to consider publishing short stories if you want to go the traditional route of actually getting published. But self-publishing, I think, is by and large the way to go these days. It takes a lot of work, it takes a lot of time, and so yeah, I guess that's pretty much all I have to say on that.
Yeah, that's so courageous, so brave, and so insightful.
Thank you.
Yeah, I really appreciate your great input.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Gregory.
Thanks.